Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second exciting edition of this class. Yes. Are you all here? I hope so. Okay. Today I'm delighted to introduce you to Dr. Pekka. And for those of you who are biologists, you will get to know this person very well. He's going to give us more than one presentation. Today he's going to talk about vision, mission, and core values. Remember last time I said that an education of Berman is about more than just stuff. It's also about how to live your life, right? So, Dr. Batman is the only person on this campus who's made me do something. He changed my diet. He didn't tell me to. He just showed me evidence. So he's the one person, no one else has ever changed my diet on this campus, except that. And he's going to come back and talk to you about why that's important, and maybe you'll understand why I decided I better change my diet. So I look forward to that one. But that's coming. But today, Dr. Batman, thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It is really an honor to be able to speak to you today. It's really a high honor. You're all first-year students right here, starting at Berman University, so it's really a pleasure that I get the opportunity to speak to you. How's the first week been? Good so far? Doesn't sound very good. You wish it was still summer weather outside, right? Pretty nice. But hopefully you've been able to enjoy the first week. Most of you in science didn't have labs, right? So that's easy, not too bad. But today I want to talk about a little bit about this topic of living the mission, vision, and core values of Berman University. I want to start with a question, but before we do any of that, let's have a word of prayer. Father in heaven, we are thankful for the opportunity to be here in class, for this opportunity for me to speak. Lord, I pray that you would speak and you would teach us all here, myself included, a little bit more about you today. Help us to understand our purpose for being, help us to understand more about who we are, and just give us a little bit more beautiful picture, a closer picture of who you are. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so you may have heard I was introduced as an associate professor of biology. So I could tell you I'm an associate professor of biology here at Berman University, but I want to ask you a question. And so this is the outline of what we're going to touch on. First, we're going to talk about getting to know you. And some people ask you questions like this. Maybe I asked you this already about how was your first week of class? How are you? Right? How are you doing? How's it going? That kind of question. You've probably heard many times. Who are you? Where did you come from? Where are you going? I'm going to talk a little bit about what is success. I can't really define it, but we'll talk a little bit about that. Tale of Two Kingdoms, a little bit of a story, and then we'll talk about a pattern to follow. We'll talk about Berman's history a little bit, so we can see sort of what is the heritage of Berman and what was the underlying were those vision, mission, and core values of Berman, and how that tied in together. So back to my first question: how are you? Now, I want you to think of this more existentially. How did you become? How are you? Okay, we'll talk about this in developmental biology. So, but first, how are you? How are you doing today? Great. Great?
I'm tired.
You feel alive? Tired? Okay, great. Tired. Any other English people can correct me, adjectives? Any other descriptive terms for how you're feeling today? Jittery? Different. This is different from home, right? You're in a different place. What makes you feel different, though? What makes you feel different? We'll throw in another question then. Why do you feel different? Actually, every one of you is kind of different, right? From each other. So, did you have any thoughts on that? No?
Why is it different?
Yeah, why is it different? It's a different feeling. You have a different feeling from the other feelings in the world. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Any other thoughts? How are you? Okay, well, contemplate that for a little bit. Maybe this will help you consider this a little bit more. Who are you? Okay, so let's get to a little bit of a deeper question here. Who are you? Think about this for a bit. Does anyone want to venture? Give me an answer. Give me your best answer about who you are. Okay? Can't be like an essay because I know you all have a lot of amazing details about who you are. I know that. But tell me in a quick answer, if anybody wants to venture to answer this question. Who am I? Okay. And try, yes.
Child of God.
Wow.
That is beautiful.
Does anyone else agree with this guy? Who wants to give him his degree like right now? I do actually. I love that answer. I love that answer.
That's right here. That's this guy. The answer.
Oh, he answered, and you were the voice person.
Yeah.
I love that answer. Okay, and we'll talk about that more. But does anyone else have another sort of feeling about who you are?
An American.
American. Okay, so defined a little bit by your, a little bit patriotic maybe. American. I don't know if you should be that patriotic at the moment, but sorry, just throwing it out there. So, anybody else? So that's often when we think about who we are, we talk about our heritage, where we're from, right? Like you heard, I was described as relating to my career. You're an associate professor of biology. Does that define us? Maybe a little bit, but not as deeply as the answer back did. So I really love that answer. Great. Anyone else have any other thoughts about who you are?
Lone wolf.
Lone wolf?
Lone wolf.
Lone wolf. So you feel a little different, like this gentleman over here.
Hey, Dave! He just keeps putting us together. We're roommates.
You're both different together. Oh, you're roommates. All this comes here. You're both being different together.
Yeah.
Love it. So, any other thoughts on who you are? You're all very quiet. Well, you're going to have to engage with your classes more, I'm sure. But you'll warm up as the semester cools off, right? The temperature gets colder here. Anyhow, okay. Well, I want to continue to think about this, because when we talk about how we are, or how we came into existence, and who we are, it leads to a lot of other questions. So, when we understand who we are, and when we understand, for example, where we are from, then it can help us understand where we're going, right? Isn't that true? To a degree, yes. And I think that's really, really, really important. So, where you are from, and many of you, when you answer this question, I heard American earlier here, but how many of you else thought of your country of origin, right? Where are you from? Yes. Where you're in your family, maybe your roots, whatever they may be. Maybe the city you're from, the town you're from, maybe your home. You might have thought of your family. Maybe your family? No? You don't want to think about your family because you're here now. It's good to think about your family, right? They miss you a lot, probably. But there's all those things that come up when we think about where we're from. But where we're from should hopefully tell us a little bit about where we're going, right? And it should also hopefully help us understand, and maybe this is maybe a little bit of a different question, but what motivates you? Like, why are you even here, right? Why are you coming to school? What's the purpose? So this is, I want you to take a minute now to think about your why. Why am I here? Okay? Because that's kind of gets a little bit to the root of the question of we're dealing with being a hermit, because you're here, right? Clearly you're here. So why are you here? Anyone want to venture to be that? You need to pick the answer to this question. Yes?
Because your basketball team needed some help.
Nice.
Fair enough.
So you could see a need, and you're just filling a need. Okay, fair enough. Yes.
To seek a good education, grow closer with God and family.
Okay. Seek a good education, grow closer with God, family. Yes.
So you get a good job and not starve to death.
Get a good job and battle the horrid onslaught of inflation that we're all experiencing, right? Okay. Very good. Yeah. So these are all probably right motivations. Yes.
I feel like what motivates me is being able to have the money to help others that are suffering.
Okay, so to get the means to be able to help others. Love it. Okay, this is starting to get down to some of the more, service-oriented pieces. Yes.
To help kids like myself achieve their dream in basketball.
Okay.
I was going down to the States almost to make Division I until I got hurt.
Oh no.
And I want to give small town kids the same chance.
Cool. That's nice. So that is a benevolent side to you coming over here and helping the team out. Yes, you were going to say something. Sorry.
Societal expectations.
Societal expectations. Wow, that's a big one, right? So you maybe feel now when you say societal, is it like, is that a broad, like, maybe families involved in that too? I don't know. just saying. But it's true. Society kind of pressures us to, hey, you got to get a university degree. Otherwise, how you get a job? Or how you going to be successful in life, right? Yes?
Figuring out the unknown. Because one of my people sometimes tell me don't always go down like some curious paths, because I've had these thoughts occasionally. And one thing people always will quote to me is curiosity killed the cat. But then eventually I got tired of that quote, so I found out there's a second part to it that satisfaction brought it back.
Oh, nice. Okay, I heard that. So, yeah, so curiosity, right? And you're here to learn. And I really like that because you're wanting to gain an understanding about something. I hope that's what education is about, right? Trying to learn, trying to get new knowledge. Sometimes if you're thinking of just, okay, the job at the end, what I'm going to get, all that stuff. But I think many of you probably did think when it comes to the where you're from, your cultural heritage, that sort of stuff. Many of you maybe thought about your desired career, right? What motivates you? Well, you want to become, a cardiothoracic surgeon or something, right? Or you want to become a dentist, or you want to become a high school teacher, or you want to become an NBA basketball player, or you want to, you have all these possible things that you're aiming for. You want to win a gold medal, as we heard about today, right? So there are reasons why, the things or reasons that you're motivated. Did you think about your desire to succeed at all? Some of you mentioned this a little bit, societal expectations. But how do you define success? What is success? Give me some answers, maybe some other people. Some of you are quiet. Just give me a second, let's see if there's someone else. Yes?
Being satisfied with yourself.
Being satisfied with yourself. Okay, awesome. Yes?
Making a positive impact in other people's lives.
Okay, so positively impacting others. Yes?
Being independent.
Being independent. Okay, great. Yes? Improvement is success. Okay, I like that too. Yes?
Being able to go home every day to your own house with your own food in the fridge, and then having people who love you around to eat supper with you.
That's pretty nice. Family, right? Family is a part of that. Okay. Any other definitions of success? I think I captured maybe some of these here. Some of you might want a nuclear family. That's how they say it in the States. Some people in the States say nuclear. We won't name any names. Sorry, Zora, I'm not picking on you. So, if you think about the nuclear family, some of us maybe want to have this 2.5 kids, right? See, we can have a half kid there. And you want to have that kind of, and it's nice to have family, right? Family's a big, that's a defining feature for many of us. What about, what somebody mentioned, being able to go home, back to your own house, right? To, maybe this is what you're thinking of. Yeah. You're in the wrong place. No, just kidding. All of you have the potential to go there if you want, but is that success? Is it having the really beautiful, awesome house, right? I mean, some would, in society, I think many would say, yes, indeed, that is a sign of success. If you've been able to make it on your own, you're independent now, you're able to pay your bills, and not only pay your bills, you can pay the bill for, the mortgage or in cash for this kind of place, and now you have, your house there, and your family, and maybe you probably also have food in the fridge in this case, I hope, and you're able to feed yourself. Funny story, sometimes I've been to some places where, we were looking at this house once, this little side note, and the person had it's all about appearances, because a really dingy house, really bad, the place was just not very taken care of, and so we're looking at the house, man, I thought this was going to be a much nicer place. Went to the garage, immaculate, BMW M5 in the garage. Wow. Some people have different priorities, right? But sometimes it's about the appearance. But is that really success, right? Is that what defines success? I really like the idea of helping others. Some people have brought this up. So I want to make a really provocative statement, maybe. And I don't think it's that provocative, but I actually believe that many of us settle for a calling that is far short of the heights that was originally intended towards. Okay? Far, far short. We settle for stuff that is way down the totem pole when it comes to the kind of success we could experience. I'm going to illustrate this with a story. Okay? So I'm telling you about measuring success. You want to get to the top of the mountain, whatever the success is for you. So the story goes, there were two kingdoms. Okay, there were two kingdoms. And there's a good kingdom that was founded on principles of faithfulness, respect, honor, love, and honesty. And there was a bad kingdom founded on principles of greed, selfish ambition, dishonesty, beating or subduing your competition, maybe on the basketball court. But, in other ways too. Basically just being better than other people and making them know that. But also probably over the backs of those other people. So, some oppression was happening. And there was a young king who had recently ascended to the throne of the good kingdom. You have a kind of a fancy picture here. And married a beautiful and very accomplished queen and had 2 young children. One was only 2 years old, the other was 6, a boy and a girl respectively. Now they sought to bring up their children in the best possible principles of care, paying attention to guiding them in lots of good ways, right? But the children didn't always get what they wanted in this kingdom. Now, the wicked king thought it would be a great time to scheme to take over the good kingdom, especially when these kids are young, right? When this good king's children were young, as this king would be occupied with taking care of those kids and wouldn't necessarily be defending his kingdom as much. Just happened to be Armenia, this is not necessarily what would happen in real life. So, what did he do? He mounted a massive attack on the good kingdom, and he succeeded in overthrowing the good kingdom, and in the process, it was such a sudden attack that he was able to kidnap the good king's only 2 children. Okay? While the good king and queen escaped. So they managed to escape, but those children, unfortunately, were kidnapped. Now, the children were placed in separate foster homes. Okay? Just keep following along here. And they, in those foster homes, they were brainwashed to believe that their parents had never given them what they wanted. And in this new kingdom, they would have all they ever wanted, and they could achieve way more and be much happier if they would just continue in this kingdom. And as time passed, the young boy began to believe what his foster parents told him. He was only 2 at the time, right? Your memories, I don't know how many of you remember when you were 3 years old. Some people have claimed to me that they remember when they were born. That's a memory that God has spared us from, right? By His grace. But, you know, I don't think you remember very far back very easily. And many of us probably don't remember. Does anyone have a memory from like when you were 3? Do you think? Yeah, 3 probably. 3. Hopefully not totally traumatic memories. But sometimes it's traumatic memories you remember. But, you know, when you're 3, that's, you know, you're starting to be able to consolidate some memories at that point in the state. A lot of times your brain is kind of replacing those early memories with new memories, and then it's kind of, they get lost along the way. So these children were losing, and this younger boy, he began to believe that his foster parents, what they were telling him, that you know, he was getting all these things he wanted. He didn't really remember his parents anymore at all. He became greedy, and he started to exhibit the characteristics of his new kingdom. And as far as he could understand, his foster parents in the wicked kingdom were his real parents. Because, I mean, they were the ones that. The girl, on the other hand, now she was 6, right? So imagine when you're 6 years old, you've got some memories. Right? Definitely. And she felt that as a child, though she did not always get everything she wanted, she longed really deep inside for her real family and its values and principles. As she grew older, she did not rebel against her foster parents, but she began to study history and realized that the kingdom she was now a part of had actually been conquered, or had partly conquered another kingdom. So this was back in the history books. And when she was around 6 years old. So she kind of did her own history, figured this out. And this, could it be, she wondered, that the king and queen of that kingdom were actually her father and mother? She wasn't pretty sure of that. Well, she probably should have known that at age 6. She became more and more determined to find out more about them and hoped one day to return to her home. She also wished to be able to tell her brother so that he too would want to return home if only she could find him. Meanwhile, the king and queen of the good kingdom had rebuilt and had another son. Okay, so the good kingdom was starting to rebuild. They were determined to rescue their lost children from the wicked kingdom. So they hatched this plan to seek out their lost children. Now, they could not go themselves, nor send their armies, because this would obviously lead to another affront and a war, which would result in a lot more loss of lives. So they discussed different plans. They decided that they would send their son, who would likely recognize his siblings from images they had shown him, also from resemblance to himself, and his deep acquaintance with his father and mother, who they also resembled. So the son agreed. After all, he wanted to be with his brother and sister, whom he had never had a chance to know. So he was hoping to see them. At this point, I want us to consider, and this is the question we go back to now, is it important for the abducted son to know whose child he is? Right? Yeah, I would think so. And I like the answer in the back that was given earlier. It's something about being a child, of who, right? Who's your original identity? Rooted in. So of course it's important. Now, actually, this is the scary evil kingdom. So we have that evil kingdom, and this mission of this child, this younger child, to go back and try and find his siblings. Now, I'm not going to finish the story for you because I think I know where it's. I think you probably have an idea where this is going. But the point is, as was answered earlier, and I wanted to almost give this guy a degree, but he does need to do some education still before that, is we are all children of the king. We are all children of the king. Do we know that? Are we actually living up to that call? Is that identity so deep in us that that is the way that we live? That's the question. So, Jesus did not come, this king, Jesus did not come to, just have fun with us. He came also to rescue us at great risk to himself, and also in relationship with his own father. That was a big deal. But gave his own life that we could be adopted into the family of God. Now, 1 John 3:1 is just a beautiful text. See what great love the Father has lavished upon us, that we should be called children of God. And that we are. The reason the world does not know us is that they did not know him. So the problem in the world is there are all these competing theories of success. Hey, you need a big car, you need a nice house, you need the best career, you need this, you need that. Yet there is also a theme which I've heard through many of the answers you gave. I want to help someone. I want to serve others. I want to attain the necessary means to help other people. I want to learn so that I can better serve. There's two kingdoms at work. We can see this. Two different ideologies. And our kingdom and our identity, because of our adoption, is child of God, right? We're children of God. So, what has God done for us? Why are we even in his children? Well, ultimately, we are created in his image, and God, our Creator, has invested deeply in us. And so his character is to be our character as well. That's the higher call. That's the original intent. That's what he always wanted for us. Unfortunately, the bad kingdom came in and did some mess with us, right? His principles need to be our principles. His goals are our goals. His success is our success. So if God's kingdom is gaining, we're gaining. If we're, it may not look to the world that we're actually like successful in the eyes of, having the giant house and the BMW M5 and all that stuff, yet we can be a huge success by our influence on others and giving them the knowledge that they too are children of the King. So, unfortunately, not many of us, we get distracted. We're, we're easily swayed from our core identity because we're seeking the things that everyone else around us is seeking. That amazing job. It's not bad to seek an amazing job, okay? I'm not saying that. You have a great job. But for what purpose? What is the intention? What is the underlying core identity that defines your purpose? That's the key piece that we're trying to get at. So we have a pattern to follow. And that pattern, I love this quote. I'm going to share it from one of my favorite books called Companion Places. A pattern to follow. Jesus was a perfect pattern of what we should be. Okay, and listen to the way he balanced things. Beautiful. He was the strictest observer of his father's law, yet he moved in perfect freedom. Wow. You can be law-abiding yet free. He had all the fervor of the enthusiast, yet he was calm, sober, and self-possessed. He was elevated above the common affairs of the world, yet he did not exclude himself from society. So we don't need to go hide away somewhere, right? We need to be engaged with the people around us. He dined with publicans and sinners, played with little children, took them in his arms and blessed them. He graced the wedding feast with his presence. He shed tears at the grave of Lazarus. He was a lover of beautiful nature and used the lilies to illustrate the value of natural simplicity in the sight of God, above artificial display. He used the occupation of the husbandman to illustrate the most sublime truths. His zeal, this is kind of a nice way of putting it, never degenerated into passion, nor his consistency into self-obstinacy. His benevolence never savored of weakness, nor his sympathy of sentimentalism. He combined the innocence and simplicity of a child with manly strength, all-absorbing devotion to God with tender love for man. He possessed manly dignity combined with winning grace of humility. He manifested unyielding firmness with gentleness. That's one I'm working on with my kids. That's pretty tough, actually. May we live daily in close connection with this perfect, faultless character. So, I don't know if you think that's beautiful. I think that's beautiful. We don't have 6 patterns, we don't have 5, we only have 1, and that's Jesus. He is our pattern. So, I hope it's your desire to reflect Jesus. Right? That is, if you're a child of God, you've been adopted into his family. You are siblings with him, kind of. Right? Which is amazing. That's actually incredible to consider that we can be siblings of God. Right? Just crazy. So, let's take a look at this. when it comes down to Burman now. I want to give you a little history of Burman so that we can connect this to the Burman story. Because I believe the Burmans, in their sort of establishment, this institution, and in the way they live, they model this sort of selfless service, desire to serve God, desire to exemplify the fact that they're children of the King, right? So, Charles and Leona Burman, at about age 12, Charles Burman was given an acre of wheat by his father. So some interesting stories. So this is, I don't know how many of you farm. Any farmers out here? Have farmed? Yes? Cool. So he got his own acre. Acre's not a lot of land for like large scale farming for sure. By his father. He got this acre of wheat. He got about 30 bushels from that acre. Brought him about 67 cents per bushel, $20. Quite a lot of money back then. I guess it'd be late 1800s. Now, as a child, his family became Sabbath keepers, and family worship was restored in their home the very next day. So this family was like getting into believing in God and spending time together with Him. After marrying Leona, they spent 1 year on the farm and then 8 years conducting evangelistic meetings across North and South Dakota. North and South Dakota, look at this here. So we have some American connections here. So it's not all that great. Okay, some key DNA. I like to talk about DNA, the core identity. What is the underlying piece of the Burmans? They had self-sacrificing service. If you want to ever, by the way, if you want to dig into the history of the Burmans a little bit more, go see our librarian. She can dig up stuff. We have some archives. It's really she's fantastic, by the way. If you haven't met our librarian, please go and take. I don't want to say take advantage of her, but she's really great. So you need to spend time getting to know her and learning from her, because she has a wealth of information, literacy, knowledge to spread to you. They had Seventh-day Adventist beliefs. They had a mission to spread the gospel. They showed their stewardship. They prioritized education. These are some of the things that the Burmans exemplified in their life. Now, let's take a look at the vision, mission, and core values. Have we gone off track yet as an institution? Well, I think we're doing okay. Let's take a look. So, our vision is to provide a transformational university experience that empowers students to, someone brought it up earlier, to serve others, right? That was the way that Jesus lived his life, a life of service, right? To serve others and to share hope, right? The hope of something better. The mission, transforming lives through whole person education and service. Burman University will educate students to think with discernment, to believe with insight and commitment. You've heard this a lot of times, probably a few times at the opening convocation we just had, right? To believe with insight and commitment, to act with confidence, compassion, and confidence. I really love it. So you're not just coming here to think. Thinking is important, but thinking without action, thinking without application is just thinking, right? It doesn't create anything. It doesn't change the world. It doesn't influence the world per se. But when we start to believe, when we have insight, when we have commitment to a cause, when we recognize, hey, I'm a child of God, as was brought up here. This is my identity. Now you have a commitment to that identity. You behave in a committed fashion in relation to that identity. And then you start to act confidently. Because you know what? You're a child of the King. You're not a child of the King. So you have the confidence as that child of the King to go forward in your experience, trusting in the fact that He has a plan for you, right? For your future and for everything that happens, even when it's difficult. Because it will be difficult sometimes, most certainly. Maybe in some of my classes too, possibly. Compassion and competence, these are all important things. So, even though you have confidence, it doesn't mean that you're going to roll over other people, right? You're not going to be confident and then just like, step on others and build your own kingdom up at the expense of others. You are, remember, a child of the kingdom, this good kingdom that exercises these attributes of kindness, patience, love, and all these things. So what are the core values at Birmingham University? Birmingham University, with its roots and traditions within the Seventh-day Adventist Church, is committed to the ideals and vision found in the teachings of Jesus Christ. So, what did we look at? We looked at the life of Christ, we looked at a description of his character, of who he is, and now we can understand a little bit better about what's the purpose of why we're here. So, finally, and this is an important one, continuing on, excellence. Birmingham University values graduate success, intellectual exploration. Somebody brought that up. Curiosity, right? A desire to learn new things, different things, expanding your mind. That's what university is about. All these notes will also get put up for you later. It's good that you're taking notes, by the way, right? Does that happen? Yes, you post them on YouTube. But better learning when you write it down and consolidate better and all that stuff. Yes, so what is happening? You're exploring, right? If you come into, I always tell this actually to a person, some of you, I don't know if any of you are interested in graduate school later, some of you maybe? Yes, graduate school, possibly, doing research, some over here, possibly. Graduate school, if you're interested in going to graduate school, you may not know that yet, maybe eventually, by year 3 or 4, you're like, wow, I really love, learning more. So, if you want to go to graduate school, here's a little hint for you. Pick a project that you're really interested in, right? Of course, I know that should go without saying, but a lot of people are like, if they're thinking, oh, I just want to get this degree that I can add to my bottom of my email or whatever, or in my CV that says I have a master's in blah, 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 or I have a PhD in X, Y, Z, then that qualifies you to be the next, person to take on a role that's higher up. That's not the point. The point is that you get to dig deeply into something that you deeply care about and learn more about it and actually contribute something in that field. And you will actually find that most supervisors for your graduate degrees, they don't really care about you getting, and I hate to put it this way, about you getting that degree, because they do care about that. But what they care about is your interest in the topic, because guess what? They know you're going to succeed if you care about the topic, if you have an interest. And it's the same at the undergraduate level. If you come to a class, and some of these classes, and from this class, like, why am I even taking this class? Right? Some of you know. Yes, why am I even taking this class? And that's totally fair, because you might feel like, wait a minute, like this isn't part of my curriculum, and this is not, but think of it as a class that's going to give you a deeper sense of purpose, okay? And also a deeper sense of the skills necessary to succeed in any class. Because you guys cover this in this class. We're going to talk about some basic things, because we've noticed over the years, and it's not a reflection poorly on you necessarily, it's maybe a societal thing. Over time, there seems to be more of this, like, I just want to get my grade, just tell me the easiest way there. Rather than, hey, I want to learn about this topic and figure it out and actually have that understanding so that I can apply this knowledge to another problem, right? Two very different ways of looking at things. So consider your personal spiritual growth as well. So spiritual growth, hopefully you will continue to maintain that. And I think that comes also from your maintaining that devotional time, that time spent, whatever you do. We're not trying to force you into our way of doing religion here. We want you to understand that you can be committed in your spiritual walk as well, because the spiritual aspect of our lives, every one of us has. It's there, and we all, you may deny it, but it's there. It's a big part of that. So, excellence, spirituality, that's what I was just touching on here. So, Birmingham University values and promotes quest for deeper understanding of a relationship with God as demonstrated by Jesus Christ. So, Christ himself, though I would say he knew the Father very well, right? The two were very close. Yet, he still spent time in prayer with his Father. So, just because we think we know, or we feel that we understand, doesn't mean we don't need time. And I'm preaching to myself here as well. We all need time in that devotion. We all need time spent in the Word of God, in prayer, making sure that we stay connected to him. Very important, and that will actually help you stay rooted in your identity as a child of God, right? Service. So, Berman University values caring and compassionate relationships, programs that foster service by employees, students, and alumni. We're going to have a service day soon. Maybe one of you will reform us so that we have service days more frequently. Okay, just throwing it out there. But service is great. Make sure you come out to service day. It's really a fun time to go out and do some projects in the community. You have a great time doing it. Highly recommend it. But that's not it. One service day, that's not. Your whole life can be service to others. And your career can be. So you become a teacher, you become a lawyer, you become a doctor, a dentist, whatever. That doesn't mean that you have to just, churn out massive amounts of money to get your sailboat and stuff. It's also a way to serve others. And you can do projects that where people can't actually pay you for their for the services you provide for them, and you'll find a lot of opportunities in that here as you go about. I'm sure that we'll learn more about that as you So I really encourage you to engage in service early on too. Don't think, well, I'm only a first year student. I'm not sure. Oh no, there's lots of opportunities, but you may need to seek them out. You may not be the person who necessarily has these opportunities put on your lap. You may have to seek them out, but you will be enriched by those. Integrity. Berman University values transparency, honesty, intellectual integrity, and responsible academic freedom. So, what do we mean by this? You probably heard have the whole academic honesty section of your syllabus try to drill in your head in every class you've had so far. That's important because again, the purpose of why you're here is not to just get that grade. Your purpose is to understand the material, to actually learn. And so, just it's interesting. I'll give you an illustration, a real illustration from class. I've had a class where I had a TA that was marking some of the short answer questions. And the short answer questions were, because the TA kind of was given, okay, here's what the answer should be. So they just looked, okay, if it's not this answer, it's wrong. But then I was like, man, I feel like the TA wasn't getting the gist of what some of these answers were trying to say. So I went back and looked, and there was one answer where the student used I would say the wrong lingo, but completely understood the idea. They understood it thoroughly. In fact, it was a refreshing way of illustrating the idea. It was different, but it was right. And so I'm like, you're getting full points for this because you understand, not because you regurgitated exactly what I said in class, but because you demonstrated to me that you understood this concept. So I want you to understand. I want you to learn to understand. And that's what university is about, is learning to understand. So being able to be honest and not cheating on your tests, not finding ways to hear the answer there. Because believe me, we have our tricks and ways to figure that out. We're not all, we try our best anyway. You might squeak by, but in the end, you're cheating yourself. And you want to maintain that, that freedom that you should have. So, community. This is the beauty of Berman as well. We like to work together. We want you to be able to share in the community with your students. Look at you all here. I think 2 of you said you feel different, right? Or lone wolf. Okay, we got the lone wolf comment. That's great. We love diversity, right? We don't want you to feel alone. We want community with diversity. So, sometimes you may have to reach out. You may not feel like part of the community in some ways, but let me tell you, a lot of people here will be willing to connect with you and talk to your professors, talk to your fellow students. We can all learn from each other. In fact, some of your deepest learning, I venture to say, even though I'm a professor here, it's going to actually be from learning about other people here and their diverse views and understandings of things. Hopefully, you'll be able to get that the beauty of that diversity and inclusion together. So how can we possibly live up to all these lofty ideals? How is this possible? What do you think? Anybody? Yes?
With God, all things are possible.
Okay. This guy's got good answers today.
That's all him.
Straight up. Good. Yes, with God all things are so. So the short answer is we can't, but with God, all things are possible, right? So we can't, but we Christians have no veil over our faces, right? 2 Corinthians 3:18. I like this one. This Living Bible translation here. We can be mirrors. Okay, we have Christians. But we Christians have no veil over our faces. We can be mirrors that brightly reflect the glory of the Lord. And as the Spirit of the Lord works within us, we become more and more like Him. So we have trouble doing it on our own. And I think that helps us maintain that humility, right, as children of God. And we can grow to be more and more like Him and reflect Him. So, going back to the beginning of this lecture, your identity as a child of God is rooted in your past, right? You were made in His image. And it supports your growth and future direction into a life, think of this tree, of purpose and meaningful service. The tree is kind of stuck in that place. It has big branches for other animals to grow in and be in there. They can have their nests in those branches. But a tree is doing a beautiful thing for us. You know, often we neglect the trees. They're amazing. But the trees, they're converting the air into themselves, right? Through photosynthesis. But also, they're converting the carbon dioxide that we produce into something beautiful that we can use, which is oxygen. So they're doing this photosynthetic process, and it's a benevolent service to us. We can see it that way. So the tree is a great example of what you are called to do as well. Be rooted deep, grounded in your identity in Christ, grounded in your identity in God, richly filled on a daily basis with fluid, right? The Holy Spirit. You need water. You take a tree away from the water, it doesn't thrive for very long. You need water. But what helps the water come up into that tree? Exposure to the sun, right? Exposure to light. So who is light? John chapter 1, right? Jesus is the light. So we need exposure to light. That helps draw the water through the plant. And as that plant continues to grow, it's not because of itself that the tree can't just get up and walk somewhere else and say, I don't like this place, right? I'm going over there. Well, it's kind of stuck, right? It has to live in the environment it's in. So some trees, you know, they may look like they're not thriving because they're not getting all the things they need, but they're still fulfilling a purpose. And each one of you has a purpose. So remember, your identity in the past can define your future success, and your future success is not rooted in all the material things you can earn. It's based largely on the service that you can render. And I hope that that's something that you will learn more and more as you're here. Many of you already have that understanding, I'm sure, and that desire. But I'm hoping that I can support in a little way that desire for you to serve in your communities and remember us too and come back to serve here. So, with that, I want to just take a minute to. We have how long do we have? A little bit more time. So like 5:20. 5:20. Okay. So I want to take a minute to just don't get too distracted by the advertisement. Challenge with these new things. I want us to take a minute to reflect on your direction from here. How are you going to look at this year? Okay, this year could actually set the trajectory for your undergrad career. Now, it doesn't mean that it's if something doesn't go perfectly right this year, that everything's going to flop, right? Allow yourself some grace as well, because it is challenging. The first year of university is often challenging, and that's okay. But recognize that there's a greater purpose. And I will tell you this from the get-go. You may have come here with the societal pressure of like, hey, I need to get this degree, or my parents think I should be a doctor, or whatever it is. Yet, ultimately, in the end, your success is not defined by what others want or even what society desires, or all those nuclear families and beautiful mansions and all those things we've talked about. It's defined by your connection with who you are and your connection to who brought you into being. The purpose for your life may be, and in fact will be defined as you continue to communicate with God, who will help you find that purpose. You don't know it right now. You may not know it right now. Maybe you do. Some of you might. But I can't even tell you. None of us here can tell you. But God can reveal to you in your life as you go that purpose. And I believe in you. Okay. I believe that you can truly exemplify many of these attributes. So take a minute now, because we have a couple minutes, to think about your future. Okay? Some of you have already done that. You came here and you started a degree. Think about your future and how can you incorporate these core values in that. And I want you guys to take a couple minutes. In fact, maybe if you can, with the person next to you, just have a little discussion, right? Just talk, hey, maybe they're different and you don't want to run them. No. But, break through. Remember we talked about community and inclusion and diversity. So break through that piece. Maybe try to talk to someone you haven't talked to, because you're usually sitting with someone So try and talk to a person that you haven't really talked to yet. And just have a conversation about why are they here? What are they hoping to do in the future? And then if some of you are willing to share, do that. So take a couple minutes to do that, and then we'll have you all share.
Okay, before you do that, I want everyone to stand up.
Oh yeah, certainly.
Stand up, take a deep breath, stretch. Stretch out.
Sounds like you've had some good discussion.
Remember, I like the noise.
Yeah, I can discuss at certain times, right? So, who's willing to share just a couple words of your, or are you just were chatting? Anybody willing to share maybe something you learned about the person next to you, about their goals, or their view of success at the end? Or yourself? Who wants to share? Come on, don't all raise your hands at once. Yes, someone like that.
Yeah, I guess the discussion we were having is we pretty much came up to the conclusion that our belief in success is a lot based on feeling, which I think sometimes may be wrong, especially in the sense of when we're trying to align our will with God's will, it has very little to do with feeling at all. And so therefore, once we're able to align our will with God's will, I believe that we will be able to find success in anything, just everything that we do.
Awesome. I like it. Great.
Anyone else on this side? Oh yeah, come back to it. Why did you say something?
There's one other person. Go ahead. Yeah. What were you supposed to talk about? That's okay. That's okay. You're different. Sorry. We were talking about what defines success, or what is our goal? What personally, how are we trying, what are we aiming for here in our education? It can be a long-term goal, it can be a goal for right now. There's no very specific part of it, but I just wanted you to define in your words. So, yeah, okay, so keep thinking about it. If someone else had it. Yeah? You. Sorry. No, I didn't want to cut you off. So, yes, somebody back here I know had your hand up, I thought. Yes?
I think success is being, one aspect of it is being financially stable.
Stable. Yeah? Well, for sure, because you're not a burden on someone else, right? You're right. Okay, that's great. That's great. I like And that is, you know, just because we're talking about all these ideals, right? Okay, let's be, you know, living a life of service. Doesn't mean God never intended for us to drain ourselves so empty that we die, right? So there's a purpose for us to also have. Someone else brought it up earlier. Having the means to help others, right, is important. However, I will give you one caveat there, and that is many of us say, when I become like wealthy, then I'll help others, right? Because then I'll have the means to help others. But guess what? Helping others isn't about what you have necessarily. You can help your classmate in school. You can be a listening ear to somebody. You can do something to help someone that has no monetary piece attached to it, and it can be more meaningful in the long term for that person. You will have people around you, some who may be different, who need someone to talk to, need someone to help them feel like they're part of the community here too. So look for those opportunities. Being of service is a habit, not something that you can flip a switch one day later when you're rich. So I like that, but I'm just trying to bring that point home as well. Any other comments on, and you can be honest with me, yes?
I think it's also about sometimes about achieving the optimal of your family and ability.
Okay.
So at different stages in your life, those are everything that's different. So it's not necessarily something that the original should work out. This point, in this case, what are the things that are in there, and looking at how we can give the optimal what we have.
Right. I love it. Yeah, it goes back to the plant. Other, yes.
Success is being on your deathbed, looking back at your life and saying, Lord, I did everything I could to glorify you, and I brought everybody I could to your door.
Amen. Nice. Okay, someone else have a comment? Yes. Pardon? I'm not laughing. I'm smiling. You're laughing.
Okay, so for me, I think when you learn what is success, and people can do, when I reach a certain goal, then I'm successful. But they can really lack the process, and that's why I said before, improvement. Don't forget the process to achieve that goal. And for me, success is taking that next step along the process, along the way, and improve every single time to achieve that goal.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful, and I think that's reflected in the text that you talked about, right? There, you're becoming more and more reflection. It doesn't happen like that, and I think it was brought up in our colloquium, or in our colloquium, our convocation this morning. See, I was thinking about names. That be in the present, right? I think it was our student president talking about being present, right? So be present, recognize the process. You can have joy in the process, and I want you to love your experience here. I mean, these are some of the best years of your life. You'll look back at that and say, wow, that was formative. But don't get so caught up in the future that you don't enjoy the process. I love that. Great. Somebody I saw, there was somebody that was itching to say something. No? Yes.
I think a big part of success is when people think that really success comes from money and all that stuff, and people think once I become successful, I'll be happy and I'll have all these things. And it really just made me think of the joy that we get from Christ and stuff like that, and how sometimes the joy that we get from just knowing God and having a relationship is better than all the success that we get from like money and all the happiness that's from things.
Right. Right. So there's a peace that passes all understanding you can have with God. Yes.
Like as I'm sitting here, I'm just thinking also as like how we're all called to do something in this world. So I feel like when you accomplish that thing that you're called to do, like your purpose, then that's success.
Okay. Yeah, it's a great way of seeing it. I think you brought up living up to all of the potential, the talents that God has given you. It's like the parable of the talents, right? Where you have, one bear is there, and the other ones, there's an increase that occurs. And so, yes, there's a faithfulness that we have towards what we've been given to reach that ultimate goal. Yet I know there's other people here that are itching to share. Yes.
And it's also just striving for the end, hearing God say, well done, good and faithful servant.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting that those who thought they had done so much for other people weren't really the ones who he said that to, right? It was the ones who were like, when did I see you? When did I do it? So you kind of like this so-called disinterested benevolence is a great term. You love, you do things for others. I'm sure there are so many people that Jesus helped that he couldn't have known that he helped them. Think about, I mean, of course he knows all things, so I guess it's hard to, but you know what I mean? Like, there's just, the ripple effect is so huge. Like I always tell, when people are like, oh, Jesus, like, Christianity isn't that like some old thing that, you know, nobody cares about? It's like, well, how come there's so many buildings all around the world with crosses on them? Why do people care? It's a pretty big deal, you know. So, and this is just a man who was like a poor guy who was a carpenter and died on a cross. Pretty amazing individual, right? So I like that point. Any other thoughts here as we're wrapping up? What do we have till 5:20 or something?
Okay, I'd like to thank Dr. Matt. Okay, couple last things. I want you to say after me. I'm a child of God. Good. I have potential. I have potential. I'm going to live up to my potential. Core values and missions of Pekka. Okay? You learned something today, I hope. Hope you can